Hi everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel, and I am here with a list video. This is a top 3 list video, and I thought for this video I would bring you guys my most important bands in my musical journey, or the bands that pretty much had the most impact on me as far as my musical journey is concerned. Now before I go any further, keep in mind that this is not a list of my favorite bands of all time, because I know some people might take me saying that these are my most important bands as me also saying that they're my favorite bands, but no, just realize that is not the case here. Because I know some people might say that, like, their most important bands are their favorite bands due to nostalgic factor, but just keep in mind that's not really where what I'm going for here. These are just my most important bands without them being my favorite bands. So, yeah, and I think we're going to begin by a certain order by which band I got into first and so on, So, the first band I want to talk about is Breaking Benjamin. Now, Breaking Benjamin, this was like really the first band that I really ever gotten into, technically. Like, they were like the first band that I wanted to listen to everything that they've done, every deep cut song, every acoustic version of every song. Like, I went nuts over these guys back in the day. So for those of you guys a couple of years ago who thought that I was a Breaking Benjamin hater, I mean, you have no idea. I mean, I truly went nuts over these guys back in early high school. So yeah, Breaking Benjamin, I mean, maybe the most important band in my musical journey, given that they were the first band I ever gotten into, and without them I wouldn't have gotten into rock and heavy metal. Now the thing is with my music taste, now I know some people might think that, like, why I never got into country music or even pop music. And I think the reason for that is because, well, for as long as I've been alive, even when I was younger, I've just always been drawn to electric guitars. I've just always been drawn to that, even before I even discovered Breaking Benjamin. Like, that was just my taste. Like, I just I guess gravitated towards electric guitars, even though that was my taste, but I felt like I didn't know it at the time. And Breaking Benjamin, I mean, I got into at a very young age, like when I was like 14 or 15, of course, back in early high school. So, yeah, I mean, without Breaking Benjamin, I wouldn't have gotten into other hard rock bands like Red. I got into Red like a year or two after Breaking Benjamin. And you could put Red on this list if you wanted to as an honorable mention, given that they were like the first band I ever saw live. So yeah, but Breaking Benjamin, I mean, without them, I wouldn't have gone into hard rock and then gone into metal. But we'll get into the metal stuff later. So, yeah, I mean, without Breaking Benjamin, I don't know where I'd be in my musical journey today, honestly, since they sort of paved this way for me for rock and metal. So, let's go ahead and move on to the second band, which is Demon Hunter. Now, Demon Hunter, I know I've said this before, but they were my first metalcore band, and that's why they are a significant band for me and one of the most important bands for me, and that is also why I take this band as seriously as I do, because I don't think without, I think without Demon Hunter, I probably would have never gotten into metal. I mean, let's be honest here. And even other metalcore bands as well, like Killswitch Engage and As I Lay Dying. I'm not so sure how I'd even feel about those bands if I never even discovered Demon Hunter, because before Demon Hunter, I was still mainly into hard rock at the time. Now, I know Demon Hunter, is awfully an overlooked band, a very underrated band, and this is definitely a band that deserves a lot more recognition, because I think they're a very unique band, given that I've never really heard, especially their ballads. Like, the ballads were really what I fell in love with when I first discovered Demon Hunter. Um, I've never heard metalcore ballads like them. I mean, they just have so much feeling to them. I think that other ballads by other metalcore bands just don't deliver for me. That might be due to nostalgia, but I don't know. Even putting the nostalgia aside, I think Ryan Clark, as far as his clean vocals go, he has a very good voice. You could say the same about his screaming vocals too, but I feel like within his clean vocals, that's where he really shines. And the funny thing is, I feel like Demon Hunter is a band that I probably wouldn't have liked back in late middle school, early high school, because the vocal style wouldn't have been my thing, at the time. But I don't know what it was, when I first discovered them back in my senior year of high school. I think I went into them with a good mindset, and I feel like, that's what a lot of people struggle with. Like, they're not going into bands with the best mindset, and that's why there's still some people that are stuck in the modern rock world and won't, climb anywhere out of that, I guess. So, yeah, and they're not really giving bands, a chance because of their mindset. But I don't know. The first Demon Hunter song I ever heard technically was Collapsing, and then I heard other songs like 1000 Apologies, Fading Away, mainly their ballads and their hard rock songs, and then I got into their, like, metalcore stuff. I listened to the Extremist record and pretty much picked up from there. So yeah, given Demon Hunter's impact on my metal journey specifically, I had to put them on the list since they were not only my first metalcore band, but technically my first metalcore, my first metal band as well. So yeah, let's go ahead and move on to the last and final band at number 3. Now at number 3, this one might be shocking, or it might not be. At number 3, I got Metallica. Now, Metallica is surprisingly not a band I've been a fan of for a long time. Because I know there's a lot of people that have, that say that they've been a fan of Metallica since their childhood, that they've been a fan for several years. For me, I really didn't discover, or I knew about Metallica. I shouldn't say I just discovered, but I knew about Metallica for years. Like, obviously, who hasn't heard of Metallica? But I really didn't give them a shot until 2016, which was really the year where I tried to give 80s metal and classic metal a chance. And I remember there was a time where I thought Metallica was going to be the only classic metal band I'd be into, and boy, am I wrong about that. It's actually the complete opposite, because I do think I do prefer the classic style of metal now more than the modern style of metal. But yeah, I mean, without Metallica, I probably wouldn't have got into classic metal, which is why I put them on this list as a important band and a significant band for me. After I got into Metallica, I got into Iron Maiden, which I believe was my second classic band, and then I got into Black Sabbath. It was either Megadeth or Black Sabbath I got into after Iron Maiden, I don't know. But yeah, without Metallica, I probably wouldn't have gotten into the older style of metal. To be honest with you guys, for the longest time, I had the closest mind when it came to classic rock, classic metal, just classic metal and rock in general. I thought it was all samey, and all the lyrics were samey. Like, they were just all love songs and stuff. Like, that was my, I guess, perception of all classic metal and classic rock and stuff. But no, that's not necessarily the case, and I was definitely wrong to think that. And I realized that it's actually a very diverse era of metal. Is it more diverse than today's metal? Well, that's debatable, but I mean, without Metallica, like I said, I probably wouldn't have gotten into classic metal, and they were my first classic heavy metal band, and maybe still to this day my favorite thrash band, but that's really tough since I also really like Megadeth. So yeah, I have Metallica at number 3. Well, there you go, guys. I have Breaking Benjamin, Demon Hunter, and Metallica as my 3 most significant bands in my musical journey that had the most impact on my musical journey. And like I said at the beginning of the video, these are not my favorite bands of all time. But like I said, they're my most important bands. So I want to hear from you guys. What would you say are your top 3 most important bands that have impacted your musical journey? And once again, don't just list your favorite bands because you think like that's the definition of importance. No, but like really give an example of like why, or actual bands that actually had some sort of impact on your journey with music. But enough rambling on. With that being said, thanks for watching. Have a nice day. Take care.